Golden State fans, buckle up, because there's a lot to talk about today. And if you're anything like me, you've probably been scrolling through your feed, seeing all kinds of names being thrown around, potential signings, rumors flying everywhere, and one name keeps popping up over and over again: Thomas Bryant. At first, I'll admit, I didn't think much of it. I mean, Thomas Bryant? Really? The guy has bounced around more teams than most people have shoes. But then I started digging a little deeper, and the more I looked, the more I realized this might actually make a lot of sense for the Warriors. Let's rewind a little. Thomas Bryant was never really that flashy guy coming out of college. Drafted by the Lakers, had a few stints here and there, some time with the Wizards, another round with the Lakers, then the Nuggets, a cup of coffee in Miami, and most recently Indiana. Nothing that screams franchise-changing player, right? But you know what? That's not what the Warriors need right now. This team doesn't need another superstar. What they need is depth. They need reliability. And in a very quiet way, that's what Thomas Bryant might be able to bring. Now, here's where things get interesting. Despite the back and forth, despite the journeyman label, Thomas Bryant is still a free agent. Technically, there's chatter that he may have signed with a team overseas in the EuroLeague, but there are whispers, nothing official just yet. And even if that's the case, we've seen players negotiate NBA opt-outs before. So don't close the door on that just yet. If there's even a sliver of possibility, the Warriors should be looking into it. Why? Because the roster as it stands is still figuring itself out. We already know Al Horford is expected to slot in as the starting center, assuming everything with Jonathan Kuminga's situation gets resolved and the front office starts making its remaining off-season moves. But Horford is going to be 40 years old. That's not a knock on him. He still stretches the floor, brings leadership, and can play smart, positionally sound basketball. But nobody expects him to carry a starter's load every night. Maybe 20 to 25 minutes max, if we're being optimistic. That means there's still a solid 15 to 20 minutes of center play to account for on a nightly basis. And this is where Thomas Bryant becomes valuable. He's not going to demand the ball. He's not trying to take over the offense. What he brings is size, strength, and a bit of grit in the middle, something the Warriors have honestly lacked since the days of Andrew Bogut and Zaza Pachulia. At 6'10" with a 7'6" wingspan, he's not just tall, he's long. That wingspan alone is enough to bother shots, box out bigger bodies, and give the team a much-needed interior presence. Is he the flashiest defender? No. Is he a rim protector in the classic sense? Not exactly, but he's physical, and in a rotation role, that's more than enough. And look, he's got championship experience. He was part of that Denver Nuggets squad in 2023 that won the title. That matters. Being in a championship locker room, understanding the grind of a deep playoff run, knowing what it takes behind the scenes, it's not just about what happens on the court. That kind of experience can't be taught, and it's exactly the kind of edge the Warriors look for in their role players. Let's say the Warriors were to go all in and pursue a big-name center in a trade. You'd probably have to give up someone like Moses Moody or Buddy Hield. Maybe more. That's the price you pay for premium talent. But signing Thomas Bryant? That's a minimum deal. Low risk, potentially high reward. It's a move that makes sense for a team that still wants to win now, but can't afford to blow up its core or mortgage the future for short-term help. And in today's league, those kind of smart, calculated depth moves can be the difference between going home early and making a real postseason run. The idea is simple. You roll with Horford for as long as his body allows, and when he sits, you bring in Bryant to absorb some of those heavy lifting minutes. Body up against bigger centers, grab tough rebounds, maybe sweat a shot or two. Kick it back out to Steph, Buddy, or whoever's open on the wing. Keep the ball moving. Keep the tempo. And more importantly, don't get destroyed on the glass, which has been a consistent issue for Golden State in recent years. And no, Bryant isn't a shooter. He's not going to space the floor. But guess what? Not every player has to. The Warriors have shooting in abundance. What they need is size and interior resistance. Bryant can offer that. Think of him as a Kevin Looney replacement. He's not a star. He's not going to wow you with stat lines. But he could do the dirty work. And sometimes that's what gets you through a brutal Western Conference. And imagine him matching up with the bigs out west. Jokic, Anthony Davis, Gafford, even a resurgent DeAndre Ayton or Sabonis. You're going to need bodies. You can't rely on Horford alone to anchor that kind of defensive pressure. It just doesn't work over 82 games plus playoffs. You need someone who can absorb contact, hold their ground, and give your core players a break without tanking the second unit. So for me, yeah, I'm coming around to the Thomas Bryant idea. It doesn't mean you're giving up on post. It doesn't mean you're saying Horford isn't good enough. It means you're building a real center rotation, one that includes youth, experience, and situational flexibility. That's how smart franchises operate. Now let's talk about another development that's raised some eyebrows. Word is the Warriors are not signing their draft picks this year. And honestly, that's a little confusing. I get it from a cap perspective. You don't want to throw guaranteed money at guys who may not even crack the rotation. But just letting them walk? Sending them overseas without any sort of control or developmental pipeline? That feels like a missed opportunity. Take Alex Chiku and Will Richard, for example. Neither of these guys are NBA ready right now. We know that. They need time. They need reps, they need coaching. But if you don't sign them to at least an Exhibit 10 contract and stash them in Santa Cruz, you lose control over that development process. You send them off to Australia or the Chinese League or wherever. And then what? You hope they become something? You hope they stay healthy, develop properly, don't lose confidence, and maybe want to come back in 2 or 3 years. That's a big gamble for a team that used draft capital on them. And yes, the G League isn't perfect, but at least if they're in Santa Cruz, you're watching every game. You're tracking their progress. You're building them into the system. You can actually develop them the Warriors way, rather than letting some random overseas club dictate their minutes, their role, their progression. That's a big difference. Just look at what other teams are doing. RJ Lewis, for example, goes undrafted, ends up with Boston, and now he's probably going to get real rotation minutes during their rebuilding year. That's how you develop talent. That's how you find diamonds in the rough. And the Warriors have done this before. Goe Santos is a perfect example. They kept him close, monitored him, molded his game, and now he's a plug-and-play guy for when injuries pile up. That's the blueprint. Why not follow it? That's where the Warriors come in. They've got the flexibility. They've got the young talent. And if the front office can finalize the 2-year deal with Jonathan Kuminga, that unlocks a trade package that suddenly becomes very real. Think about it. For future first-round picks, maybe even some pick swaps and young players with upside. Guys like Moses Moody, maybe even Brandon Podziemski or Tracy Jackson-Davis. It's a serious offer, especially if Milwaukee feels their window is closing and they want to reset without going into a full rebuild. Now, this all hinges on a lot of moving parts. The Warriors would have to be performing well enough to justify pushing their chips in. Kuminga would need to commit to the extension, and the Bucks would need to be in a tailspin significant enough to force their hand. But the possibility is there. And honestly, it's bigger now than it was a few weeks ago, precisely because Giannis is staying in Milwaukee for now. This isn't about creating pipe dreams. It's about recognizing how quickly things shift in the NBA. Look at what happened with Kevin Durant, with James Harden, with Damian Lillard. Stars stay until suddenly they don't. Giannis is fiercely loyal, but he's also a competitor. If he feels like Milwaukee isn't doing enough, or if he senses that another year is slipping away, he's not going to just sit back and let it happen. And the Warriors, with their blend of veterans and young talent, are one of the few teams that could offer a ready-to-win environment and the assets to make a deal work. Imagine that for a second. Giannis in blue and gold, playing next to Steph, running in transition with Wiggins and Kuminga, cleaning the glass, defending the rim, setting brutal screens, and diving to the basket like only he can. That's not just a playoff team. That's a title favorite overnight. And while, yes, a lot has to go right for that to happen, this front office has never shied away from making bold moves. They traded for Andrew Wiggins when no one believed in him. They drafted guys people passed over. They built a dynasty on smart bets and strong development. Giannis would be the ultimate bet, but one worth taking if the stars align. And look, let's talk about the front office and their current strategy, because there's been a lot of debate lately about whether they're building for now or building for later. Honestly, it feels like they're trying to thread the needle between both. They're looking for veterans who can contribute right away, like Horford, like maybe Thomas Bryant, but they're also not fully cashing in their young assets just yet. The problem is, at some point, you've got to commit to a direction. You can't develop rookies and chase a championship at the same time. Not effectively, anyway. We've seen this play out over the past few seasons. The Warriors held on to James Wiseman for too long, hoping he'd turn the corner, and by the time they moved him, his value had plummeted. They don't want to make the same mistake again. That's why this Kuminga deal is so important. It's not just about locking up a promising young player. It's about determining whether he's part of the future or a part of the trade capital for something bigger. And right now, with how Kuminga has progressed, there's real value in locking him up. He's showing signs of being a two-way monster. Athletic, smart, improving on both ends. If you let that kind of player walk, or even worse, hold off on signing him and let the uncertainty fester, you risk losing a key piece for nothing. But if you sign him, you have options. You can build around him, or you can move him in a deal that makes the entire roster better. It's a win-win. Back to the big picture, though. The Warriors are in this strange position where they're not quite the old dynasty team anymore, but they're also not a rebuilding squad. They're in this hybrid zone, trying to squeeze out one more run with Steph while keeping the cupboard stock for the future. That's hard to do. Most teams fail at that. But Golden State has a shot because they've got smart people in the room and a culture that attracts players who want to win. And if you look at how the roster is shaping up, it's clear that they're building a contingency plan. You've got Quentin Post, who's still raw but has potential. He's a legit 7-footer, learning how to space the floor, and with time, he could become a reliable rotational big. He's not there yet, but you can see the pieces forming. You've got Buddy Hield, who brings shooting and floor spacing, a skill set the Warriors always value. You've got Moses Moody, who continues to develop and shows flashes of being a solid two-way wing. Add in a guy like Thomas Bryant, who could be the physical presence this team has lacked for years, and suddenly the bench starts to make sense. It's not perfect, far from it, but the pieces are starting to align, and if they can stay healthy, avoid major setbacks, and keep some internal development moving, they're going to be dangerous. And again, if things go south in Milwaukee and Giannis becomes available, Golden State will be ready to pounce. The real question is whether they'll be bold enough to pull the trigger. Because the price for Giannis is going to be steep. There's no way around that. You're not just giving up picks, you're probably giving up multiple young guys, maybe a key rotation player or two. But you don't get chances like this often. And for a player of Giannis' caliber, a generational talent, arguably the best two-way player in the league right now, you pay that price. You figure out the rest later. Just imagine that lineup. Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, Andrew Wiggins, Giannis Antetokounmpo, and Al Horford. Or maybe you go smaller and faster, with Kuminga sliding in at the 4, Giannis at the 5. The combinations are endless. The mismatches are devastating. And the defense? Borderline elite, with size, switchability, and athleticism across every position. Of course, all of this is hypothetical for now. But it's not fantasy. It's not impossible. And the fact that Giannis is still in Milwaukee, but with that air of uncertainty around the franchise's direction, means the Warriors are going to stay in the background, watching, waiting, and preparing. Meanwhile, they've got work to do. Training camp is coming. Roster spots need to be finalized. And we still don't have full clarity on what's happening with the unsigned draft picks. Will they end up overseas? Will they come back later in the year? Will the team reverse course and sign them to Exhibit 10 deals just to maintain control and bring them into the G League system? One thing's for sure. If Golden State wants to compete at the highest level this year, they need to make smart decisions now. The margin for error is smaller than ever. The Western Conference is stacked. Denver isn't going anywhere. The Lakers are reloaded. The Suns are deeper. The Thunder are coming. There's no room for hesitation. For now, we wait. We watch. We hope. Because if this thing comes together the way it could, if the Warriors hit on just a few of these moves, we might just be looking at another deep playoff run. And maybe, just maybe, one final chapter in the dynasty that no one saw coming. Before we continue, make sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel so you won't miss any exclusive Dubs updates. Let's keep going. During the last practice session of the Golden State Warriors, an unexpected situation reportedly caught everyone off guard and immediately sparked whispers across the league. Stephen Curry, the face of the franchise and one of the most influential players in basketball history, may have sustained an injury during a routine drill. According to those close to the team environment, the incident happened in what appeared to be a non-contact moment, with Curry pulling up and grimacing, which led staff members to intervene quickly. The practice, which was closed to the public and media, has since become the subject of speculation, as team insiders are said to be keeping information extremely restricted. The idea that Curry, the linchpin of the Warriors' offensive system, could be dealing with a setback has created a ripple effect, with fans immediately turning to social media to voice concern and journalists scrambling to verify the extent of the situation. Although nothing official has been released by the team, the rumor mill has begun spinning at high speed, and questions about whether the Warriors' season could be shaken by this development have already begun to dominate basketball conversations throughout the country. The Warriors, as an organization, are known for their measured approach when it comes to handling information about injuries, especially involving their star players. This cautiousness only adds fuel to the speculation, as the absence of clarity often intensifies curiosity and nervousness. Curry, who has already endured multiple injuries throughout his career, including ankle issues in his early years and hand injuries more recently, is often under intense observation because of the team's reliance on his unique skill set. His shooting range, ball handling, and leadership are not only essential to the Warriors' offensive schemes, but also to their overall identity as a franchise. The idea of him potentially missing games, even preseason matchups, has created murmurs within rival teams who understand how drastically different Golden State looks without him on the court. Reports suggest that medical personnel were seen extending practice longer than usual, possibly to conduct on-site assessments. While official confirmation remains elusive, the guarded silence from team representatives has been interpreted by many as an indicator that the situation may not be as minor as fans would hope. In professional sports, silence often speaks louder than words, and at this moment, every detail is under the microscope. The reaction from fans has been immediate and intense, particularly across online platforms, where worry is mingling with denial, frustration, and hope. Memes, speculative tweets, and long-form discussions have multiplied within hours of the news surfacing, highlighting how central Curry is to the basketball community beyond just Warriors supporters. Some fans argue this could simply be exaggerated noise, noting that Curry has occasionally left practices early for precautionary reasons. Others, however, point to the urgency shown by staff during the moment as a potential red flag. The NBA, as a whole, often witnesses the cycle of rumor and confirmation, but when it involves a player of Curry's stature, the magnitude of the discourse multiplies. Even analysts on national shows have reportedly adjusted their segments to incorporate speculation about Curry's status, proof of the gravitational pull his name carries in the sports world. The conversation is not simply about one player. It's about the symbolic weight of the Warriors dynasty and how fragile their run can appear if the most vital cog is suddenly in question. The emotional stakes make even unverified details echo louder, spreading the buzz far and wide. From a strategic standpoint, if Curry's condition does prove to be serious, the implications for the Warriors extend far beyond short-term adjustments. Head coach Steve Kerr has built an offensive ecosystem designed to maximize Curry's movement, spacing, and shot-making abilities. Without him, even for a limited stretch, the playbook would need dramatic alteration, forcing other players like Klay Thompson, Draymond Green, and Andrew Wiggins to take on expanded roles. Younger talents, such as Jonathan Kuminga and Moses Moody, could suddenly find themselves under immense pressure to deliver. The team's reliance on Curry as both a playmaker and a psychological anchor cannot be overstated, and any interruption to his rhythm tends to shake the balance of the entire squad. Opponents are also closely observing these rumors, preparing contingency strategies in case Curry is indeed sidelined, which would dramatically alter matchups in the Western Conference. Rival coaches, though respectful, understand the competitive advantage that could arise from such misfortune. As rumors continue to swirl, the uncertainty becomes a story in itself, raising doubts, hopes, and endless theories about what could come next. Ultimately, This situation illustrates the precarious nature of professional sports, where one unanticipated moment can shift narratives, alter destinies, and ignite a firestorm of speculation. Steph Curry, long celebrated as the revolutionary figure who changed the geometry of basketball with his limitless shooting range, has always carried the weight of expectation on his shoulders. Any suggestion that he could be dealing with physical limitations instantly reverberates beyond the locker room, affecting ticket sales, broadcast storylines, and even the morale of casual fans. While some insiders suggest the injury might not be severe, the lack of transparency ensures that the mystery only deepens. Until the Warriors officially address the issue, the rumor will continue to thrive, magnified by every silence and amplified by every whisper. For now, the basketball world waits with bated breath, knowing that the fate of a season, and perhaps the continuity of a dynasty, could hinge on the health of one man whose impact extends far beyond the hardwood. In the absence of facts, speculation reigns supreme, and Curry's uncertain status has become the talk of the league. Stay updated exclusively with the latest Dub Nation news. Subscribe to our channel and hit the like button to keep getting daily updates on the Warriors. Don't forget to share your thoughts in the comments. Your input is essential for the Dubs community. Stay tuned for the next video.